So in this tutorial is going to be about the turn in place system. When I press tab on my keyboard, as you can see, the character rotates to the desired angle, facing the camera, I think facing the camera direction or rotation. And it's always going to be like that. So for example, if I aim to the side right here, I think that's about 180 degrees. And when I press tab, and my character just rotates to the desired rotation, facing always forward, the forward direction. So that's going to be it. As you can see on the top left corner, I have a value in orange. Focus on the first value there. So as I move to the right side, as you can see, I get positive values. That's going to mean that we're moving to the right. And yeah, as you can see, I'm going to be explaining everything in the tutorial. So right now, I just want to explain you that I have possibilities for my character to rotate from 0 to 180 degrees, no matter what angle. So let's say, for example, I want to rotate 100 degrees from the side here to the right. So I press tab and it works. So let's start by going into our character's blueprint. As you can see here, I have the default. It's not the default code, it's custom, but you can follow the tutorial without any problems. So I'm going to choose the tab key because it's easier for me, but you can choose whatever key you want. I'm going to copy and paste some comments here, so it's going to be easier for us to follow along. So the first things that we need to have is the information of where the character is rotated at. So we're going to get actor rotation. And what we're going to basically do, we're going to promote that to a variable. So that's going to make it to be saved. So we're going to store the rotation value. So that's going to be called character current rotation. And we're going to save that in there. So we're going to be using this value later. Now we're going to save the rotation difference. We're going to get base aim rotation. So this is going to give us the base aim rotation. And we're going to normalize this value together with the character current rotation. So we can get a value. So that way we can get the difference value that we need for us to be rotating the character with the desired angle degree. So I'm going to get the actor rotation again. So I'm just going to copy this. Actually, I can just get the character rotation from here. There's not a problem. Then I can get the delta rotator, plug that to B. And we're going to split this value. And we only want to get the difference on the ZR because that's what matters for us. The ZR controls the Z-axis of the character. So for example, if I want to move this object here on the ZR, that would be like this. I'm rotating this object on the ZR. And I'm going to promote to variable. And this is going to be like save, I don't know, save delta Z axis. Then we're going to continue our execution from here. Now we're going to get it to a branch. If you're in doubt what this save delta does, so we can just print a string here. Let's say print a string. Let's get the get actor rotation here and put that into B. Now let's press play. Get the return value ZR and put a tag to be in the string. Yeah, there we go. Now, as you can see here, when I rotate to the left side, it gives me negative value from going to 0. Starting from the middle, we start getting negative values such as negative 11, 17. And then when we go the back, negative 170. And as soon as it reaches negative, I think 180, then start going from negative value to be a positive value. And it's going to be decreasing its value here. And there you go. So that's going to be pretty useful for us to be knowing what's the amount that the character needs to be rotated at. So let's say, for example, you aim to this location here. As you can see on the result, you get 97. So that's going to be the degrees rotation that the character needs to be at in order for it to be centralized with the camera, for him to be facing forward like this, right? To know which direction we are facing at. So for example, if I do this, I'm moving to the right direction. So I want my character to turn to the right direction. And if I have my camera aiming to the side here, I want the character to turn to the left direction. And as you can see there, I get negative values. And then when I move like this, I get positive values. From this value here, I'm going to get less. I'm going to get an operator. And if the value is less than 0, if it's true, then that means that we are rotating to the right side. And I have the animation montages right here. I have the turn right 180 montage. So as you can see, my character turns 180. And I also have the character turning to the right in 90 degrees rotation. So we're going to use these montages to be played later. Now what we're going to do, I want to just print a string and say rotating right. And I want the text color to be green. The same thing here for the left rotation event. Actually, this is false and this is true. So this is going to be rotating left. So if the value is less than 0, that means that we're rotating to the left side. Then if it's true, then it's going to go into this execution on these comments here. So we're going to follow our execution code here. Now, when I compile, save, and test that out, when I move to the left, let me just change the comment here. When I rotate to the left, I want it to be, all right, this is the right rotation event, this is the left one. So when I rotate to the left and I press tab, as you can see, it says rotating left. And when I aim to the right side and press tab, as you can see, I'm rotating to the right. So that's telling me which direction the character should turn. For us to be able to move to smoothly set the rotation of the character, we are going to use timelines again. So I'm going to right click and add a timeline. And this is going to be turn in place right. So I'm going to use the same line here just for the character to turn to the right side, but for turning to the left, I'm going to create another one later. So let's double click on this timeline here. On the length, I'm going to choose 1.25. I guess that's the same value that I've set before. And I'm going to go to track and add a float track, because we only want to set one value, which is the rotation of the character on this axis. So I'm going to type here 180, and I'm going to press and hold the shift key and press the left mouse button to add a new key. And the time here, I'm going to add 0, the value 0, and do the same thing. Here the time is going to be 1.25, 1.25. And here on the value is going to be 180, positive. So that's going to be look like this. Now, after you're done with the changes, compile, save, and out of the print string here, I'm going to connect that to play from start. Now, after the update, I'm going to get a branch, And now we're going to get the saved delta z. We get this value here, and let's say, for example, if 180 is greater or equal than the saved delta z, then into the condition, I'm going to print all the values here so you can understand it better. So I'm going to print this condition to this value, this variable, oops, and place update to there. So as you can see, as we set up our timeline, which is going from 0 to 180 positive, that's going to take us 1 second and 25 milliseconds to execute that transition from the values here, from the float values. And if the delta z, which is the value that we get in here as we press tab, is more than, let's say, I don't know, let's say, for example, the player is facing at the direction of 70. So this timeline is going to update the print string, which is going to go from 0 to 180. So it's going to go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and as soon as it gets to 70 or more, then the condition is going to be true. Then what I want to do with that, I want to get a branch, and I want to stop that update. I want to stop the timeline to be executed by getting a branch here. So let's see how that works in as we are printing a string. So I'm going to press on play here, and I press tab. As you can see, I get false value, and then I eventually get true. Well, that's because it's starting from 0 and it's going to 180. And from going to 0 through the way, it's going to reach 70. And if it's true, then we don't want to execute the code anymore because you have already reached the desired angle rotation. So I'm going to update this, and I don't want to use the spin here because we don't need it anymore. We don't need to rotate the angle degree that the character if the character has reached already. So what we're going to do here, we're just going to get this value, get the save delta z, and depending on how much the character has rotated, we're going to stop that transition by it stops executing here. Yeah, it's kind of complicated to explain this, but I hope you get it. So I'm going to set actor rotation. Now we're going to finally set our actor location after this long code here. And I'm going to split the structure bin. And now I'm going to get the saved character rotation that we have saved in the beginning of the code. Now we're going to maintain the X row and the Y pitch. We don't want to change them. We only want to change the Z yaw rotation of the character. Now we're going to add this. We're going to add, and we were going to add 180 here. And now you're going to finally place that value in there. And let's see if that works. Let's press on play here. And as we aim to the right side here, as I press tab, now the character rotates to the right. And if I face this direction here, negative, positive 178, and I press tab, then the character rotates smoothly to the desired rotation. Now, it rotates at any angle, but not when we aim to the left. We don't rotate to the left because we don't have the code for it yet. So it's not going to work. So let's make the code for rotating left now. Let's ignore this for now. Let's just focus on the main principles. So now let's get another timeline. So let's get the timeline. Let's get turn in place left. And double click on that. Now we're going to do the same thing, but for rotating to the left. Now let's add the same length and add a flow track. Name it to be negative 180, doesn't matter. Now we're going to left click, left shift and left click. The time to be 0, and the second curve, the second key is going to be at the time of 1.25, and the value is going to be at negative 180. As we are rotating to the left, that makes sense. Now let's just compile, save, and let's use these values here. Now we're going to do practically the same thing. Let's connect first to the play star, and let's get a branch. Let's do the same thing. I think I can copy all this code here and place it there. Update. Now we're going to delete this as it says greater or equal. Now we want to change that. It's less or equal. Now it's going to be less or equal, and we're going to add negative 180 to here, and it's going to check for the values. Now we want to plug that to the condition. And this goes there. Now let's see if it's working. No, so now let's see if it's working. So when I aim to the left, it rotates. So as you can see, all the angles are working. No matter what angle you aim at, it's always going to rotate the character respective rotation. So now let's actually play the animation for it to be more believable for players. Now I'm going to do it once because I only want to execute the animation once. If I didn't do this, then I think the animation would play for each second because it's running on the timeline. As you can see here, it's running on the update. So we're going to do once, and we want to reset that to once by pressing tab. So I'm going to get the tab, by releasing tab. So I'm going to get the tab key, and as soon as we release the tab key, I'm going to reset it to once. So that's going to allow us to do once again after we finish it, after we finish the execution after the completed event. So I'm going to do the same here. Actually, I'm going to do the same later. So I'm just going to copy and paste after we've done with the changes in here, with the code that we're going to set in here. Now we're going to save delta z. Going to get if it's greater or equal than 110. I'm going to go to select. Let's get the play montage first. I'm going to get the mesh, and out of the montage play, I'm going to type select, and on the index, I'm going to choose Boolean. And on here, I'm going to select my turn animation, which is turn right. The first one I'm going to select is turn right 90 degrees. And the other one I'm going to select, which is turn right 180. So I'm going to play these animations here. And this is going to be on the indexed. And out of the return value, we're going to add if it's equal to turn right 90 degrees montage. It's going to go to a branch. And after completed event, it's going to go to a branch. And I'm going to promote the starting position to a variable. I'm going to set the starting position And from the return value, I'm going to play the montage. File save. So as you can see on the comment here, I've wrote play rotating right animation and set starting position depending on turn and place angle. So I'm going to talk about this first. The set starting position. It basically does what it says. It sets the starting position of the animation montage to play. I was recently having some issues related to the montage not playing correctly. So I've decided to promote this to a variable and set the starting position depending on what angle I have chosen to be played. So for the starting position on the true, it's going to be .5, and starting position, it's going to be .3 here, false. If you don't have, I think it's going to depend on what animation you have. For in my case, I have this animation here on this, they play on these frames, they play on these frames. And I was having some issues that the montage wasn't playing correctly. And I had to set the starting position to .5 and the other to .3. If you don't have any animation bugs or glitches when you play the turn in place, then you can set these values here, starting position, and blah, blah, blah. But if you don't have it, then you don't need to worry about this code here, okay? As I only have two animations, one for the character to turn right at 90 degrees, and the other for the character to turn right but 180 degrees. As I only have those animations, I don't have animation for the character to rotate at 110 degrees, for example. I choose to be one or the other. So in the best case scenario, I want the character, if the character is rotating at 110 degrees, if the character has to rotate at 110 degrees, I prefer to play the animation montage of the character rotating at 180 degrees, if that's the case of making it more believable by players. It's going to be it. So yeah, I hope you understood it. And here it's going to get to the condition. If the condition is true, that means that we are using the turn right 90 degrees montage animation. And I want to set the starting position of this specific animation montage to be .5. That's the value that worked for me. For you, it might be different depending on what animation montage you have. Okay, but if you want to get mine, then the link is down in the description below, and you can get them for on my Patreon page. And you can get these animations and all the project files on the Patreon page. So maybe you can. It's going to be useful for you to learn more. And I don't know. So let's do the second part. I'm going to just copy all this code here, and boom, there we go. Now I'm going to connect it here, and I'm just going to change the turn right animation to turn left 90 degrees montage, and the other one for turn left 180 degrees. Now I'm going to change it here as well. Turn left. Now I think that's everything. Let's compile, save, and press play here. Now it's time for the magic. Now when I'm rotating at 90 degrees, I'm going to press tab, then the character rotates. Now I want to rotate at negative 90 degrees. Yeah, as you can see there, as this is the issue that I'm talking about the legs, about the leg movement. This is probably because of the blend in time on the animation montage. We can just change the blend in time inside the animation montage if you want. So you can choose the blend time here. It's the time that it takes for one animation to blend into the other. So I chose it to be .15. And I also want to choose the values in here. So the value for the first one is going to be .2. And I think that should be fixing it. I think that should fix it. So negative, when I reach at the negative 90 degrees, I press tab and I get better results, but you can always tweak the settings and see which one works better for you. Maybe you can use these animations inside the animation blueprint. You can do what's better for you. I think doing it inside the animation blueprint instead of just playing the montages could solve the problem. And I believe you can tweak the settings so it can be more, when you turn, it can be more realistic, so you can blend. You have more options to blend one animation to another, and you can get a better or even a perfect result with this. So when you press tab here, as you can see, I can rotate 90 degrees. Now let's go rotate 90 degrees to the right, 180 degrees. And now let's rotate at negative 180 degrees to go into the left. Yeah, I think we should replace this by, instead of it being greater, I want to choose less, because we're going to the left side. And choose the value. The value here is going to be negative 110. Okay, don't forget about that. And now let's test. That's the results. So when I aim at negative 171, we can smoothly rotate our character. So I think that's going to be it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to check out my Patreon page as I post all the systems, all the project files from old to new tutorials in there. So that's going to be it. Hope you enjoyed, and I see you in the next one. Bye bye.